Hello and welcome, as always, to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. I'm Jules Chabot, and yeah, every week, whenever I can, I pop up here on YouTube and share some wildlife wisdom from the perspective of the beautiful energy and wisdom of each different species and how we can learn from them. So today we're going to be having a look at the beautiful and very, very tricky to master teachings from the beautiful pheasants on the planet. The reason being, I always ask every week before I send out my advance notice of this live, who wants to come forward and have their message shared with all of you lovely folks that tune in either on purpose or by accident. Find me here on YouTube. And this week I was going out my back door for my normal early morning walk, and locked the back door. Didn't think I was particularly quiet, and I walked around the side of our house to where we've got a very thin walkway that adjoins the neighbouring field. And I saw something brown on the floor, like a chestnut colour. I thought, what's that? And then all of a sudden, it moved and turned into a he, and it was a male pheasant who, I'm not sure who was more frightened, me or him. So I sort of squealed as he took off flapping and making this amazing noise that pheasants do. And off he went, and I was left with, my heart racing a little. And then chuckling to myself and thinking, well, that's who we're going to be sharing and talking about today. So beautiful pheasant wisdom. And I was very drawn to read the message that is in my book, The Purpose of Species. And that's my name before I got married over 5 years ago. So this book was published back in 2012. And it's basically a collection of 44 messages from different species for humanity. You see my little notes there as well. And within this, pheasant was one of the messages. And I called it Pondering Judgement. And again, as usual, the timing of this, clearly for me personally, because there's always a connection with what I'm being guided to follow and to learn and to share, because we always learn best by teaching, don't we? Morning, Robin. It's lovely to have you here. See your lovely smile and wave in the chat. Welcome. So there's a call through me, obviously, that guides me, and then the animals appear either physically or I start seeing them everywhere. They're popping up on the TV and in magazines and on notice boards and all sorts of things. So they turn up, and then I share the wisdom as best I can as a faithful translator, which of course has an essence of me. So I always say to people when I share this, some of it's coming from ancient Celtic belief about different species, which is where a good part of my ancestry is from. Some of it's coming through my filter of my experience of life, and the connection and the need for me to hear the message, and then for you to show up here. There's also a connection. Everything's interconnected, so there's a connection to you. But I always say, if you take the moment for yourself to think about what it means for you and what pheasants mean to you, and then just let that resonate in your heart. It's not really a thinking thing. It's much more of a feeling, a gut feel, a heart feel, and then your head's very useful for then deciding, well, what do I do differently? How do I behave and think and act differently? Robin, it's lovely to have you here live as well. It's great for you to be able to make it. I know how busy you are most of the time with lots of things in your life. So let's dive in. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read part of the pheasant's message, and then I just want to sort of have a quick chat at the end. So if you look at what's going on in our human world right now, there's an awful lot for us, let's be honest, to be judging and saying this is good, this is bad. And we do have a tendency as a collective species to decide whether something is good or bad, right or wrong, and it's a polarity. It's one or the other. And I am generalizing, but when you look out into the world and hear what's going on, especially in the media, they whip things up into polarities all over the place. There's lots of shades of grey, of course, and it's up to us to discern and bring in information and then make our mind up, not pretending that nothing bad is happening in the world, because of course there is all sorts of actions, behaviours, beliefs going on right now that are really very, very disturbing and saddening and all sorts of other descriptors. But it's up to us to have a think about how we respond to that. And this is very much where the beautiful pheasants are coming from. So I'm going to read from the book. So excuse me looking down more than looking at you lovely people. I'm going to read part of it. It's not terribly long, so it'll be a couple of minutes, and then we'll have a bit of a chat around what they've had to share. So this is Pheasant Wisdom. You must let go of judgments. This is so important at this time. This is not some spiritual quest to be a better person, for that in itself is a judgment. For what is better? Ha ha. That's a pheasant laughing. Not very good at impersonating pheasants. No. Fundamentally, what we show you is the impact of your vibrational energy as you extend judgments. So let us walk you through the ripple effect that impacts all. You see something or someone and you judge it. Let us take a negative judgment, a negative vibration. You judge it in a way that sends a negative wave of energy firstly through the essence of your own being, manifesting in a return of this energy to you in some way to match what you're exuding. So that in itself is really interesting. Just let that one sink in if you haven't already heard that, understood that, know that. You also send out this ripple into the universe, so way, way beyond what you could possibly imagine. If you look up at the stars at night and you learn about the enormity of the cosmos, you would be, I would be, I'm sure, blown away by this wave of energy that we each, every single being, every single entity, existence does this. There is a wave of energy that comes out from us. So you also send this ripple into the universe, which influences the vibration of all it encounters. It is like the butterfly effect you humans speak of, yes? Your thoughts become things. You choose them. The judgments you make of the negative energetic frequency begins a negative cycle of impact on you and everything around you. If you replace these thoughts with positive judgments, loving judgments, you will experience a whole different impact on you and those around you. So knowing this, you must take ownership of the impact you are having. Do you grasp this? Whether physically spoken or not, every thought pulses throughout in our universe and impacts all. It is the nature of things. All that determines how you feel is your response to it, how you judge it. Let me just read that one again because it's really quite profound, I think. All that determines how you feel is your response to it, how you judge it. What ripples do you send out into the universe? Do they help raise the consciousness or lower it? Do you even notice? Next time you see one of our kind, pheasants, think about the judgments you are making in your life. Positive, uplifting, grateful, joyous, negative, depressing, ungrateful, miserable. Choose wisely. You will see how your life takes flight when you vibrate more and more highly. Take flight. So I don't know about you, but as I read that, I can feel parts of me going, well, that's all very well and good, but, and yes, but what about this? And what about that? So there's resistance in me. I'm very open to admit that. I'm a human. And yeah, I have an awareness of this, and I've been actively aware of this for a long time. But does it mean to say that I can do this all the time? No, of course it doesn't. So I'd be interested to understand or hear from you about, what sort of reactions you had to hearing that message, because over the years, I published this book back in 2012, so it's been around for over a decade. So I've had people come back to me and say, some of these messages are really, really difficult. And well, it's all right for them to say that, and lots of resistance, which always makes me smile and say, I know. And yet, here we are. And we do have this ownership of our thoughts. But for me, what I wanted to add in this sort of, reflection, it's not about spiritual bypassing. I mentioned that a little while ago. It's not about going, everything in the world's great, I'm lovely, all my wounds are healed, I can think positive thoughts and I can ignore all the things that are going on around me and I'll be fine and everything will be wonderful. It's not that. Again, as always, there's a middle path. And the middle path through all the Indigenous wisdom that I've ever been fortunate enough to learn about and to read about always talks in some way, using different language, about a middle path, a path of balance. So there are lots and lots of things happening in humanity right now that, to be quite honest, are devastating, emotionally, physically, mentally, and certainly spiritually. And it's happening, it seems to me to be just happening, whether it's happening more and more than it did, or whether we're just making more and more and more of it, I don't know. I think humans have been capable of doing horrible things for a very, very long time, alongside all the wonderful, beautiful things that we humans are very, very capable of doing and being as well. So it's not about ignoring, but it's about acknowledging and being discerning, as I mentioned earlier, learning from as trustworthy sources as you can and asking for guidance in whatever way you do from your God, your ancestors, angels, guides, and feeling into what feels right for you. And a lot of these things will be very much out there in the world and potentially not really connected to your influence, your immediate influence. But what is always connected to you is your immediate influence, where your feet are, where you live, your community, your family, whatever that looks like for you. And so I think the wisdom from the beautiful pheasants is really about knowing that these things happen, not denying them, but then making a decision and a choice once you've sat with it and given some thought to what can I do right now or today or this week, however you want to frame it, as long as it is a commitment to act, to bring positive, beneficial, loving kindness and compassion into my world, knowing that it will ripple out far greater than I will realise or perhaps ever know. Because not only, again, it starts right here with us. When we do that, we are empowering ourselves. And it is our choice to say, yes, there are some awful, honestly, I can't really believe a lot of the things that I'm hearing today about what's happening in the world. I hear it, I feel it. I don't let it cripple me, because then I can't be of service in the world. So I have to find a way, my own way, which is your own way, of being able to say, yes, this is happening. What am I going to do today? For whatever my circumstances are, I might not be very well today. So it might be the best I can do is rest in bed and think loving thoughts, maybe say some prayers, maybe meditate and get peaceful within myself and send that energy out. Maybe listen to the birds and send them love and tell them how beautiful they are and how needed they are. Whatever that is for you, to then engaging with others and bringing that about. So I think I've said enough about that. So it's really about that. I just wanted to clarify it because I think it's so important, because it's very easy to polarize it as well. Either you do it 100% of the time and you're walking on water at the same time, or you're no good at it and you're gossiping and telling everybody and throwing your negative thoughts about everyone and everything all over the place. And there's nothing else. And of course, it's not like that. Shades of grey. Some days are going to be more towards the middle of the path of balance, and some days are going to be either very, very good at being very, very positive, which is that balanced way, and some days you're just going to be well out. You're going to be either spiritual bypassing, blah blah blah, don't want to hear any of it, just going to think nice thoughts, or you're going to be blah, 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 blah. Oh, he did this, she did that, this happened today, this is awful. So we have to have that patience and tolerance for ourselves as we strive to become more effective at it. So let's have a look what Robin's saying. She says, what fabulous wisdom from these beautiful birds. It's very much been my learning on my journey. That's wonderful. And still is part of my learning and practice and what I seek to share with Wild, which is Robin's beautiful service work in the world. And she says, she goes on to say, like you say, it's not about empty positivity, but about taking agency. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Taking agency for the thoughts and beliefs we engage with, and whether we're in conditioned reaction or conscious and considered responses. Yeah, I really agree with you, Robin. As usual, you are very wise, and I know we've shared a lot around our beliefs over the years. And she also says, love that, our choice. Yeah, it's our choice. But that's our choice, not with a stick to beat ourselves with, or our choice, well, I'm going to choose to be, judgmental and awful to everybody, because it does come back and bite you. And I have experienced that. I've learnt, many years in the corporate world with an awful lot of judgmental, conditioned responses expected. And it can get very, very unpleasant very, very quickly. And so you either carry it on and choose that this is the life I'm choosing to lead, and it's going to keep bouncing back to me, making me feel worse and out of balance and probably unwell. Or I can choose to say, right, I'm not perfect. I don't know all the answers. I'm not, instantly going to be judgment free, because I'm not sure if that's possible within humans. Unless you are super enlightened, I guess. But that you take as much opportunity as you can from being aware, from noticing, dealing with your own emotions, and then saying, okay, what can I do? How can I reach for something that feels better and act on it, whether that be thought, verbalizing, or physical activities that you do in your day-to-day life. So it's quite a tricky one, isn't it? It really can be complicated. And yet I always say it can be simple if you allow it to be, and you allow yourself to be human and to trip up and do the same thing again, and then make some progress and feel really good about it and think, oh, that felt better and that helped me today, and I'm sure that helped some other people around me. Robin's also saying, I love the concept of compassion, which again is something which starts with ourselves. Yeah, and for a lot of us, and I include myself, that's a really challenging thing for me to do better, to improve in terms of being gentle with myself and not beating myself up. It's been very much a conditioned pattern of, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. I have to do it first, right, first time, completely unreasonable. So learning that, and learning that there's, a younger me inside that's scared and vulnerable and afraid, and that rather than attack and belittle, it's comfort and guide, and treat them as you would a small child that's having trouble. You wouldn't sort of shout at them. You'd want to take care of them and comfort them. Life, Robin goes on to say, life is simply a balance, and we get to try things out to see what works. Yeah, we're simply students, and making mistakes is okay. Yeah, we're on the same page, aren't we, Robin? We always have been, I think. And yes, simplicity is key. Trial and error. Yeah, trial and error. I was talking to someone else about trial and error yesterday. It was a lady I met, lovely lady I met yesterday, and we were talking about when you do anything that's, especially when it's pioneering and you're sort of standing there for the first time, or it's the first time for you and it's very new, and trial and error. So we test and learn, and the trick is to learn, not to just keep repeating the same things hoping that something's going to change, when really what needs to change is something that you're doing or believing or saying to others. So, and last comment, and then I'm going to close because we're at time, I think, Robin. But I love your last comment and all your comments. We are perfectly imperfect. That is so true. And yet, our intention, our heart, where we're coming from, is something that we can work on every single day. And as the Pheasant said, live in gratitude, live in kindness as much as we can. Start with ourselves, extend that to others, and some days we will be more able to do that than others. I think it's a case of balancing. Robin says it's not about being right, but about finding how we can return to that more middle ground. Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap things up. It's been lovely chatting with you, Robin. I'd love to hear from those of you that watch the replay, whenever that is for you. Just pop something in the comments, or you can direct message me on Instagram, or any other way that you can get in touch with me on my website, etc. I'd love to hear from you and how you found the wisdom of the pheasants today, because we sure have a very powerful testing ground right here on Earth at this time, don't we? So have a play with that, see what you can shift and change and try, and notice the difference. And that's you empowering yourself. So hopefully I'll be back next week. Where are we? 17th today. So it's the 24th next Friday, all being well. I'll let you know round about middle of the week as usual, and sending much love to you all. Take really good care of yourselves, and I look forward to being back next week with whoever comes forward. Thank you, Robin. Oh, wonderful, Jules, as always, she says. Thank you so much, and wishing you a beautiful day, and take good care of yourself. See you later. Thank you. Bye.